Hi everyone, my name is Chaitni and I am a mindset and nutrition coach. Every week I share wellness videos that have to do with nutrition, healthy habits, lifestyle changes, self-care, stress, anxiety, all of that good stuff. So if you're interested in any of those topics or they resonate with you, make sure to subscribe so you know when I drop a video. So in this week's video, I'll be talking about how to build a healthy habit. We've all been there. You know, the new year rolls around and we have a million resolutions or even just one, and we decide that this is going to be the year where we make the change. And a month in or a month and a half in, what happens? We go back to our old selves and we go back to our old habits. And why is that? Because change is very hard to sustain, especially behavior change. And that's what developing a healthy habit is about, is you're trying to cultivate a new habit and you're trying to change your behavior for the better. And that's not easy. Your body is going to fight it, your mind is going to fight it, everything is going to fight it. But if you make the process really simple and really easy, you will actually be able to not just develop the habit, but sustain it in the long run. So that is what today's video is about. I'll be sharing 6 tips that you can implement right away with whatever habit you're trying to cultivate. And you can use them. It's step by step. It's an entire step-by-step process. It's something that I have used to develop my habits as well. So without further ado, let me get started. The first tip that we're going to talk about is ask yourself a very important question before you develop a habit, and that question is this the right habit for me? And the reason I say that is so often there is all this peer pressure. There is social media pressure of how to do things, what to do, and it's a cognitive overload, really, where we forget what is right for us and what isn't. And you know that. You have the answer to what is right for you. So just because you have friends who are on a keto diet and they rave about it and they're seeing results from it, or you have family members that swear by circuit training or resistance training and they're seeing results from that, doesn't mean that you need to do the exact same thing. You need to do what is right for you, for your mind, for your body, for your priorities, your values, and your overall health. So that is why that question is extremely important, is trying to figure out whether a certain habit is even right for you to begin with. Now, along the same lines, tip number 2 is starting to figure out your why. You need to know your why. What is the purpose behind developing this habit, behind making this change? If you're unclear about your purpose, it's going to be so easy to go back to your old ways. It's going to be really hard to sustain the change that you wish to make. Now, let me give you an example. If your habit is eating healthy because you wish to lose weight, your why is not weight loss. Your why is much deeper than weight loss. So here's a trick that I'm going to share with you. If you start with weight loss, you need to ask yourself, why does losing weight matter? When you figure out the answer to that, you then need to ask yourself, all right, why is that important? Why? Usually it's 5 whys that will do the trick. This is something I learned as a nutritionist when I was studying at Precision Nutrition, but it's the 5 whys trick. So start with your reasoning and then keep asking yourself why at least 4 to 5 times, and that is when you will get to the actual answer. That is when you will get to the root of why you really wish to develop that habit and why you really wish to make that change. And this is important because your why is going to be the motivation that you need on days when things are really hard and you don't want to stick to your habit. That is what's going to push you and allow you to sustain the habit that you have cultivated. Now, tip number 3 is break down your habit into realistic goals. All right, so you want to develop a habit of exercising more. That's great. But if you haven't exercised much or at all, even in the last few months, just going to the gym and saying, I'm going to do this 5 times a week, 60 minutes each session, is going to be a little bit hard to sustain. It's even going to be hard to get started with it. So instead, set really realistic goals. Keep them simple, keep them easy. You know, instead of going to the gym 5 times a week because you want to exercise more, maybe your goal for that habit is, let me just check out the gym and see what's out there. It's making sure you have the right attire, making sure you have the right shoes. Maybe it's starting with a 20-minute walk 3 times a week or 5 times a week, whatever it is. But keep it really simple, keep it really realistic, and make sure it's easy to achieve. That's not setting the bar too low, because as I said earlier, change is hard. It's overwhelming. It doesn't come naturally to most of us. So make it easy for yourself. Don't make it so difficult. You don't need to set the bar this high and then stress over it. Instead, set it this high. And then once you've achieved this and you've accomplished this goal, build on it, and then build on it and build on it. So it's very important to break down your habit into realistic and feasible goals that you can actually achieve. That's also going to give you the confidence that you need to keep on going and not to just completely abandon developing that habit. Now, tip number 4 is create your support system. So this can be paid, this can be unpaid. So let me touch on the paid portion first. So these are your mentors, your coaches, your gym trainers, if that's the way you want to go. Maybe it's going to a nutritionist. Maybe it's hiring an advisor. Whatever you need to do to start to develop that habit, that is your support system. So let me give you an example. If your goal, your habit is to start eating healthier, and one of the goals to achieve that habit or to stick to that habit is to make more home-cooked meals or to consume more home-cooked meals, then how are you going to accomplish that goal? Maybe you have a really busy lifestyle, you're always on the go. In fact, your lunches and dinners are just drive-through, something that you pick up on the way home or something that you pick up on the way to a meeting. So it's almost impossible for you to really carve out the time to make a healthy meal for yourself. Well, this is when you invest in yourself. You figure out, all right, is my money better spent eating fast food and damaging my health and not being able to stick to my habit? Or is it more worth it to drop a pretty penny on some of these healthy meal delivery service plans and kind of just give that responsibility to somebody else? That way you're not stressing about it, and yes, it costs money, but it's money that's going to result into something positive. It's money well spent. It's money that's totally worth it because it's allowing you to get closer to a goal and to stick to a habit that actually matters to you. So that is how you create that paid support system. Now, when I talk about the unpaid support system, it's sharing your goals and sharing your results with the people that matter. So these could be family members, they could be friends, colleagues, they could be a significant other, they could be your manager at work. Getting the right people on board and sharing your goals with them can make a huge difference because these are people who matter to you. So when they hold you accountable, it's actually going to have an impact. It's not just some Joe Schmo asking you, hey, how's your healthy eating going? And you're like, yeah, it's good, and you kind of brush it off. No, it's not like that. It's these people who actually care about you, who know you, and they will hold you accountable, and they will actually help you get closer to your goals and to sustain your habits. So you need to create the right support system that's going to work for you. Then the next tip is plan. You need to plan to the T, and this is very important. Don't leave change to willpower. Instead, leave it to planning. So whatever habit you wish to develop, let's say, for instance, it's reading more. You want to really, read 1 book a month, so that's 12 books a year. All right, that's great. That's fantastic. But then you need to figure out the when, where, how, with whom, What is also that you need to figure out. So all the W's, and then the one H is what you need to have answers to. The why we've already covered, right? That was step number 2. So you should know your why. You should be very clear on it. But everything else is going to matter when it comes to planning. So what kind of book are you going to read? Are you maybe going to start with something that you usually enjoy, like fantasy? Because remember, you make your goals simple and easy. So that's where you start off. Where are you going to read? Are you going to head to the library? Are you going to read, 15 minutes before bed? Are you going to read first thing in the morning while you're sipping on your cup of tea or coffee? So you need to figure that out. You also need to figure out, all right, if I'm going to read in bed before I fall asleep, then that book needs to sit on your nightstand. Or if you're going to read that while having breakfast, then the book needs to be on the dining table. All of these nuances, all of these tidbits matter. They make a difference because they make the change a lot easier and they make the change possible. So these are things that you need to think about. So whether your goal is trying to eat healthy, or your goal is going to the gym or being more active, or your goal is indulging in self-care, or your goal is spending quality time with your family, it's not something that you just say and that's going to fall into place. You actually have to take the time to plan for it. So that planning is extremely important. And then the next tip is, along the same lines of planning, is you don't just plan for the goals that you want to achieve, but you also plan for the pitfalls, because there will be pitfalls. There will be obstacles. There will be hurdles that come up. Some will be known, some will be unknown, but at least you can plan for the known ones. So if your goal is, hitting the gym 5 times a week, and you know that after a long day at work, when you come home, it's almost impossible for you to get off the couch and leave Netflix, then how are you going to achieve your goal? That is your obstacle right there. It's that hurdle, is leaving the house once you're back home. So you need to schedule that workout routine around this. It's not a bad thing. You don't need to beat yourself about it. You don't need to judge yourself or criticize. Maybe you go to the gym during lunch. Maybe you go to the gym early in the morning. Or maybe you go to the gym directly after work. You don't even make that pit stop at home. Keep that gym bag with you in the car. You go to the gym, get it done and over with, and then you come back home and you don't need to leave the house for the rest of the night. So these are things that you need to plan for. They may sound silly, they may sound like not a big deal, but when you plan for possible obstacles, you are really helping yourself. You are setting yourself up to succeed. Now, there are going to be some obstacles that are unknown. Let's say we go with the same example of going to the gym. You're on your way to the gym after work and you end up with a flat tire. Well, that was completely unexpected, right? So instead of feeling frazzled, or instead of feeling like, you might lose the momentum that you've gained to develop the habit, you try to work around it. The more consistently you make your habit a part of your routine, the easier it gets to manage even the unknowns. So in this situation, maybe you go to the gym early morning, or maybe you do something quick at home. Maybe a 20-minute workout is even sufficient versus the full 60 minutes that you spend. So you will start to get creative. You will start to figure out your substitutes and your alternatives when things don't go as planned. But for that to happen, you really have to have all the other steps figured out, and you really have to take the time to plan for potential challenges, because that automatically will give you an idea of what you can do if there's an unknown challenge that pops up. So let me just quickly wrap this up. There are 6 tips that I shared with you, not 10, 6 tips that I shared with you. So one is really figure out if the habit that you're trying to develop is the right habit for you. Then you need to figure out your why. Why is this habit for you? Why do you want to make this behavior change? What is the purpose behind it? Then tip number 3 is break the habit down into realistic goals. Tip number 4 is you create your support system, one that's actually going to work for you. Tip number 5 is you plan on how you are going to make this habit a part of your life. And then the last tip is similar to planning, but it's planning for the potential obstacles, known and unknown, that may get in the way of developing and sustaining your habit. So at the end of the day, habit change is all about consistency. Whatever you do, even if it's 5 minutes a day, doing it 5 minutes a day for 7 days a week is going to have a bigger impact than doing something once a week, 5 minutes a day for just 2 weeks a month, right? Consistency is really what matters, is you show up and you do the work repeatedly over and over again, and you have the desire to do that, and you have the willpower or the why to stick with it and to turn that habit into a routine for you. So at the end of the day, any kind of behavior change, any kind of habit that you wish to cultivate, all boils down to how consistent you can be with it. And the tips that I shared with you will allow you to develop that consistency and stick to that consistency. So I hope you got something out of it. Whatever your habit, good luck with it. Happy habit forming. I hope it goes well. Let me know. Give me some feedback on how it's going. I would love to help you and hear from you. If you want to learn more about how I help my clients achieve their health goals, you can check out my website. It's www.imperfectbodies.com. In the meantime, I hope you have a phenomenal week. Take care of yourself, and I will see you here next week. Thank you.